those cycles, but there's also that one line there that we call trend growth. What does that mean? So every country has a certain level of, let's call it, natural productivity. The Germans are going to enjoy this. But if you look at Germany and you look at Greece, Germany is more productive than Greece, and that productivity curve is not going to change that much. Right? So the credit cycle causes those more frequent economic swings, which usually last 5 to 8 years, but that trend growth line doesn't change that much. In Namibia, if we look back at history, and the feeling that we have is that we probably have a natural growth rate of around 4 to 4.5%. When we stimulated in 2008, we very rapidly, now like I said, commodities also helped, we went to 6%, so that was above trend. Okay, so we've talked now about stimulating when times are tough. So what are we supposed to do when times are going very well? Well, we could still use those same two tools, except as I've mentioned, monetary policy, our hands have cut off a bit. We're now actually supposed to pull back a bit, because we don't want to seem to run out of kilter, because we don't like bubbles. Remember I said we want to smooth these cycles. So what did we do? The same principle we mentioned around individuals, that guy buying the tractor that's investing to be more productive in the future. We were continuing to spend. We're spending more than was needed. We should have pulled back a bit from a fiscal perspective. Now, if you spend more now than what you're earning, or if you use future earnings that you're spending now, in the future at some stage, as I've mentioned, you're going to have to pay that back. If you spend on the right things, as an example of the tractor example, then in the future, you're going to be generating more income because you're more productive. So what does that mean? We're supposed to, if we spend on productive assets, is going to generate income in the future. In other words, where does the government's income come from? From taxes. So putting the right things in place to stimulate so that we can get taxes in the future. We will continue to stimulate, and I must add, sometimes not always at the most productive places. I think we're all very much aware of the fact that the wage bill, for example, in the government is a very large part of our budget. So the point here I want you to take away is we did do the right stuff, but we continued, we didn't pull back. And as a result of that, this debt burden started building. So now we have a lot more debt than where we were at. And obviously, as I was saying, in the future, this debt now needs to be paid back again, plus some interest. Now, in Namibia, if you had to look at the debt to GDP ratio just on a specific ratio basis, then it's not that high relative to some other countries in the world. It's actually okay. The problem is that the cost of debt in Namibia is a lot higher compared to the cost of debt in some of these other countries. So what I'm illustrating is, through this cycle, public and private credit was expanding a lot more than it was healthy. So, summarizing the cycles and what happened, so we, instead of applying counter-cyclical policy, which we started in 2008, we moved over to pro-cyclical policy, where we continue to spend, and I'm almost done here, don't worry. So as I was saying, what goes up must come down, and eventually, for various reasons, not just, our own fault, but, commodities crashing, things not going so well with our neighboring countries, the cycle did start turning against us. And at the moment, we're in a situation where we've had 9 consecutive quarters of negative growth. That is a lot. So if you look at a recession, you're usually looking at 4 to 6 quarters. 4 to 6 quarters of negative growth. Remember, I've talked about these cycles, 5 to 8 years. I'm not saying a recession is 5 to 8 years. In that 5 to 8 years is average times, good times, bad times. We've had 9 consecutive quarters now. So there is a problem. The question is, how do we get out of this? So I've talked about some of these things. So what are the levers that we have available? We've talked about fiscal policy. I don't need to explain that again. We've talked about monetary policy. I don't need to explain that again. Fiscal policy, we can't do anything now. Now that we're struggling, we want to do the same thing we did in 2008, right? We want to stimulate ourselves out of this problem. We can't do it because we have too much debt. So we need to consolidate. So the government is doing the right stuff now. The problem is we shouldn't have gotten here in the first place. Monetary policy, I've already explained to you, we can't do anything because we peg to the rand, and whatever South Africa decides to do with interest rates, we pretty much need to follow them. The last one we have, the only one we really have available, is private sector spending, and that's created by confidence. So I hope the things are coming together for you here. And I just have a quick slide. So where are we in terms of confidence? There's actually uncertainty, and there's some contradictory things at the moment. Times are tough, but our research do show some signs of recovery. We have a thing called the IJG Business Climate Monitor, where we're seeing some mixed signals from mild recovery. Some leading indicators are saying there might be more pain. On the other side, when we look at credit extension, we are seeing that there's actually some credit extension taking place, which might suggest that we're at the bottom. It's not really that clear. What it's saying to me, as a non-economist, is that there's a real need for certainty. We need certainty, and the private sector is looking for confidence, and they're struggling. So what is the only really lever that the government has left at this stage? Because the government is supposed to set the rules for us so that everybody can participate. All these participants, individuals, businesses, can participate constructively in this economy. And I think policy certainty is the key thing to stimulate investment. And this is the only real lever, I believe, at this stage that we have to get ourselves out of this from a government perspective. And this is why I think today's session is so critical. I want to end with the last slide here, and this is not Namibia because I don't have this information available for Namibia. But I think the slide is very interesting, leading into what Darby might say, or not say. South Africa corporate deposits. We all know what's happening in South Africa. We all know about the negativity taking place in South Africa. Look at this chart. What is it saying to you?
Nobody's investing.
People are scared because they don't have certainty. Give us certainty and we will invest and we'll get out of this trough. We will get out of this trough because cycles are normal. But if there's certainty, we'll get out of it sooner and we can grow at this long-term trend growth of between 4 and 4.5%, we believe Namibian growth. Thank you very much.